This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. It truly is never-ending with this woman. Now we get this spread in People magazine of Meghan Markle sharing never-before-seen photo of daughter, Princess Little Betty, to mark International Women's Day. So why is it that Meghan's not photoed with Little Betty? Wouldn't that have made more sense as a mom? Right, Meghan? Geez, Meghan, you're exhausting. I can smell your desperation all the way here in New York. Like, why all of a sudden you're putting out these photos of the children when for the past 5 years you refuse to show anyone the life that they have back in Montecito? Is it because people are starting to question the legitimacy of these children in the line of succession? I think so. I don't believe anything that you put out anymore. For all we know, this photo could be digitized. And, quite frankly, the possibility of that is fairly high since everything this woman has put out has been manipulated, including her whole entire childhood past. Also posted on her Instagram account is this photo of her and Harry. Like, she really is trying to sell that she's in this happy marriage with him. And when you look closer at this photo, it's 100% photoshopped. Oh my God, I feel like this woman is unraveling in front of our eyes. I don't know if she's doing this to piss Harry off, but, she's like a cartoon character. Seriously. Really, Meghan, nobody's buying your lies anymore. This is like ridiculous. Honestly, God, at least you could have fixed your feet. Is Meghan giving off a signal that she's open for business with that stupid Panama hat? I wish she would burn that thing. Anyway, let's move away from this distraction and talk about this. In today's video, I'd like to highlight a few overlooked or unconnected dots that deserve attention. It's been 4 years since Meghan and Harry's unforgettable interview with Oprah in 2021, an event that continues to cast a long shadow. When you compare Meghan from that interview to the version we see in her recent With Love Meghan project, the difference is quite stark, like night and day. No matter how hard Meghan tries to rebrand herself as so-called likable, that infamous interview ensures her efforts will never succeed. It was a spectacular misfire, backlashing not just on Meghan and Harry, but on Oprah too. So much so that Oprah reportedly tried to scrub it from the internet. Yet, for these opportunistic race-baiting grifters, there's no escaping it. The interview's legacy endures a permanent reminder of why this toxic trio deserves to be canceled, no matter how much they scramble to rewrite the narrative. From the second Meghan Markle strutted into the spotlight, it was all about race. Barely a week after it was announced Harry and Meghan were dating, Harry's out there issuing a statement to leave his girlfriend alone, tying, for the first time, Meghan to Diana and using race, taking it to the next level. Then, let's not forget the straight-outta Compton garbage gets shoved down all our throats, smearing the UK as racist, courtesy of some LA hack with suspiciously perfect timing. Coincidence? Looking back on this, I think not. Meghan and Harry were clearly itching to stir the pot on purpose, whip up drama, and use race as the divider to make their points in order to drive not only censorship, but also this socialism and control that the globalists have been trying to push on everybody. We're seeing the downfall of the West. Thank God Donald Trump won. But when you look at the UK, Australia, Ireland, Canada, every single Western country is going through the same pains that we had been going through here in the United States and had enough of. And I keep saying this over and over again, that had this election gone the other way, America would have been lost. And if America fell, then the rest of the world would have fallen. We would have fallen to these globalists and we would have ended up losing our sovereignty. At least with Donald Trump, there is a glimmer of hope to help influence other countries to changing course and being for the people in the spirit of democracy and freedom. It doesn't appear that the EU or the UK, as well as Canada and Australia, want that to happen. And that's because they all got a taste of that American taxpayer money. What pisses me off the most is realizing my tax dollars are indirectly fueling all of this mess. The shadowy deep state players in power have abused our money, weaponizing it to tear down the West. Not for some noble cause, but to line their own pockets, boost their political clout, and shove a godless ideology down our throats, spitting on Judeo-Christian values in the process. Not cool. And Harry and Meghan are very much a part of this, and I'll get to that in a sec. But let me give you some background so you can understand how Harry and Meghan fit in. It was really in the Obama era where all of this kicked off and the groundwork had been laid to what we are seeing today. His 2011 USAID Inclusive Development thing, $90 million allocated for global LGBT rights. That literally was the start of all of this, priming the US for the chaos. Then, as we saw with Meghan and her role that she played here, I'm not saying that she's predominantly the one responsible for it, but a main contributor to all of this woke racial division oozing across the pond to the UK. And who was footing the bill? Well, the deep state and the globalist elites, laundering hard-earned taxpayer cash through USAID, bringing it back home to flood the U.S. education system from pre-K to college, and then capturing the media. It literally is a full-court press in psychologically manipulating the masses using major broadcast networks, social media, and heavyweights like Netflix and CBS, all pumping the same ideological narrative. This wasn't an accident. This was definitely a playbook. So I think it's really important for everyone to understand USAID's role in all of this. You see, USAID's cash is meant for international development to advance U.S. interests, think bolstering security, flexing soft power in negotiations, or giving the American economy a leg up. But the deep state hijacked it because there was very little oversight, turning it into a slush fund to push regime change, censorship, and a siphoning of American middle-class wealth. And those that hate America, like the EU and George Soros, know that the middle class is America's strength. So what better way to attack the United States and weaken it by attacking the middle class and stealing their money? And this is exactly what has been happening. However, it's not just Europe that despises America. Anti-American venom runs deep worldwide, including right here at home in the United States. The wealthy elite, like the Clintons, Obamas, most of Hollywood, including sanctimonious phonies like Meghan and Oprah, preach endlessly about diversity, equity, inclusion, and climate change. I hope you notice that everyone in Meghan and Harry's orbit are tied to not only this ideological shift, but also this money laundering scheme. What it really boils down to when we look at this whole entire saga with Meghan and Harry boils down to the power of influence. The progressive left, flush with Hollywood heavyweights, cleverly weaponized the royal family for political clout. Power players like Obama, Clinton, NATO, the UN, and even Prince Charles to some degree worked to erode the Queen's commitment to political neutrality through Harry and Meghan. Could Charles have stepped in to curb their antics? Absolutely, but he didn't. Everyone, and I mean everyone, was too busy loathing Trump in 2020. Common sense screams that Charles wasn't clueless. He had some kind of idea that Harry and Meghan were coming over here to support the Biden-Harris campaign, as well as involve themselves with social media giants to reshape the online world. I've mentioned this before, but I suspect the Megxit story we were told wasn't entirely accurate. The royal family may not have known every detail, though I believe Charles had a general sense of their intentions, albeit in a simplified form. It's likely he understood Harry was heading to the U.S. to collaborate with social media companies on reshaping the media landscape, perhaps justifying it as something best done from California. I also think he framed Meghan's involvement as an American in supporting the Biden campaign as a discreet but meaningful contribution tied to the broader narrative of safeguarding democracy. At the time, Sarah Latham was working with Meghan, and it's reasonable to assume she helped coordinate efforts here in the U.S., possibly connecting with figures like Gloria Steinem, Hillary Clinton, and Michelle Obama. As for the Queen's decision to grant Harry and Meghan a one-year trial period, It might have been more strategic than it really appeared, potentially a quiet nod to their election-related plans, which could explain why their status wasn't revoked immediately. She may have anticipated their return once the chapter closed. However, it seems the advisors guiding Harry and Meghan, along with Meghan herself, chose a different path, diverging from expectations and steering their journey in an independent direction ever since. I do believe that Harry was heavily influenced by the folks that Meghan had surrounding him in California. These people that we see with Meghan on her series, as well as those working with her in the entertainment industry, are all vultures. I want to show you an example of what I mean by that. Do you guys remember last year when this clout-chasing goblin showed up at this bookstore and Oprah was there? It was called Godmother's Bookstore, something like that. It was such a random, out-of-the-blue kind of thing, and people were shocked to see Oprah was there, as well as engaging with Meghan, because many had thought that Oprah had abandoned Meghan. I never thought that that was the case, and I'll explain to you why I think that a little later on. But focusing back on this bookstore, up until now, I never really paid attention to who these two women were, aside from knowing that they were the ones who opened this bookstore. Standing next to Harry is Victoria Jackson, and then standing next to Meghan is Jennifer Rudolph Walsh. Now you're saying, okay, they opened up this bookstore, big deal. And the reason why I bring them up is because they were featured in Meghan's With Love, Meghan, but they don't really go into detail as to who they are.
But if you want more of anything, you let us know.
Amazing.
Yes. I know you made mine extra.
We made
extra
tame.
So I don't win.
That's my mom's the exact same way. Oh, nothing for me tonight.
No.
Margarita? Okay.
So you see what we have here. We have Jennifer Rudolph Walsh standing next to Tracy Robbins. She is the wife of Brian Robbins, who is the CEO of Paramount Pictures and Nickelodeon. Remember, Harry and Meghan were hanging out with them in Jamaica for the Bob Marley premiere? Tracy Robbins also was at the opening of this bookstore, Godmothers, with Oprah and Meghan. And it just so happened that Meghan's book, The Bench, as well as Harry's Spare, was on full display. And many of us thought that this was the doing of Meghan's PR. More so PR for Jennifer Rudolph Walsh. You might be asking, well, who is this Jennifer Rudolph Walsh? Jennifer Rudolph Walsh is a board member at the talent agency WME and runs the agency's worldwide literary, speakers, and conference divisions. Walsh's department publishes over 200 books a year, half of those landing on the New York Times bestseller list. Walsh launched a conference department in 2014, WME Live, which is responsible for creating national conferences for Oprah Winfrey with the Life You Want tour. According to Wikipedia, as the sole female member of WME's board after William Morris Agency's merger with Endeavor, Walsh has been named to the Hollywood Reporter's Women in Entertainment list for 5 years running. She created WME's first Women's Summit in 2011, which assembled 120 female execs from the agency's offices around the world. And you'll never guess, Jennifer Rudolph Walsh also helped and counseled Harry when he was writing Spare. As you can see here in the acknowledgments at the very end, he thanks her for the guidance and counsel when he was writing this book. So it appears that she is the literary agent for Spare, explaining why this book Spare was front and center at Godmother's bookstore for the opening, and most likely for Meghan's book The Bench as well. But Meghan didn't sign with WME until 2023. Do you guys really believe that? Do you believe that we were told the truth about this relationship? If you've been following me for a while, you know I've got a quirky knack for catching the little things. The moment I saw this woman laugh, it hit me. I'd seen her before in Harry and Meghan's 6-hour Netflix race-baiting fest, that divisive train wreck that trashed the Queen's legacy and took a sledgehammer to the royal family. Remember this scene? There she is, Jennifer Rudolph Walsh, in September of 2020. So what does that tell you, folks? That tells you Meghan and Harry were working with WME way before they even announced that WME and Meghan had a relationship. Jennifer Rudolph Walsh is very big on the power of progressive left storytelling.
You know what's so great about having a bookstore? I mean, look at it. It's beautiful. The community. I am finding it so awesome how there's not enough bookstores and people are loving it. Don't you think?
I just love it. I mean, people come in here and the phrase we hear over and over again is, I don't know why, but this makes me feel like crying. And that makes me feel like crying because I know why. Because we've put so much love and intention into everything. It's like, you know, when you just take a bite of pound cake and you're like, why is this so delicious? Oh, it's the butter. Well, the butter is the love in this, and it's buttery and delicious. And people are feeling that. And they're feeling like they found a home away from home.
Is it safe to assume that this bookstore is filled to the brim with leftist progressive ideology books? Yeah, I would think so. It's no surprise Ted Sarandos from Netflix and his wife frequent this bookstore. It's a small world, guys, I'm telling you. So now when you put all these people together, you start to understand what they have been doing.
To see this institutional gaslighting that happens is extraordinary. And that's why everything that's happened to us was always going to happen to us. Because if you speak truth to power, that's how they respond.
Speaking truth to power. My God, how I hate hearing that phrase now. What Harry and Meghan did here in this Netflix mockumentary, as well as the Oprah interview, was pure socialist subversion. And these people, all connected to one another, were behind it. And it was all done for money, most likely coming from USAID. Remember I told you in the beginning of this video that USAID's cash is meant for international development to advance US interests in benefit of this country. But somewhere along the way, when Obama took over, the money got hijacked and turned into the slush fund for the wealthy elite, not only to push regime change, but also for censorship and pretty much making themselves wealthy. Well, this is what we're seeing here with these people who backed Meghan and Harry's Netflix crap, as well as Harry's book, and anything else that these two have touched. There's a reason why Meghan was so focused on race, and that's because there was billions pumped in by the Biden regime to push critical race theory, or to push social justice, I might say, for women and minorities. That's where you get this truth to power crap. This whole thing with Meghan and Harry has been one giant scam, from Netflix to Oprah to Jennifer Rudolph Walsh and this book Spare. Everybody involved that had their hands in producing and putting out this garbage were behind preying on the royal family. And it was all to make money. Disgusting. They didn't care who they hurt. They didn't care who they trashed, and they certainly didn't care who they stole from. The probability of USAID being behind funding Harry and Meghan for that Oprah bullshit interview, as well as the Netflix mockumentary and the Me You Can't See with Oprah and Harry, is very high. And the reason why I say that is because coincidentally, CBS Corporation, otherwise known as Columbia Broadcasting System, just so happened in 2018 to open up a division in the UK. What a coincidence! Just in time for them to seal whatever deal that they were making back when they were working royals. 4 months later, Netflix went ahead and did the exact same thing. So one has to ask the question, why is it that Netflix, who has been operating in the UK since 2012, now all of a sudden has opened up this separate division? And when you look at the financials, you're looking at millions, but not to the degree of what Netflix as an entity itself is making, but just enough to say, that could have been payment that went to Harry and Meghan. Because of the lack of oversight with USAID money, a check could have been cut to this corporation in the UK because it's foreign money. And here we go, folks. Then Netflix takes that and transfers it over to Meghan and Harry for payment. And we would never know because it probably went into one of those 11 shell companies that they're running and then out into an offshore account. This is how these people get away with stealing our money. So now you understand why Harry and Meghan did what they did and made up this whole story. All of it had been planned with all these people involved.
We were here for a year until we actually did it. And sitting down with Oprah was a reaction to what had happened that year. We thought that was the beginning of our year of transition, which turns out was anything but a transition. Well, it was just a beating.
And right here in this moment, I think subconsciously, he has a bit of regret because you can see his face drop.
started at a young age. We didn't have a lot, but we traveled. My mom was a travel agent.
We traveled. My mom was a travel agent.
We would just try so many different flavors in different places. My mom would make gumbo and
I don't think it's a coincidence that we're starting to see a shift now in our media, especially since Donald Trump has been elected. Ever since USAID money has been cut off, we are starting to see a lot of these woke liberal commentators, as well as broadcast networks, firing people left and right. I don't think it's a coincidence at all. Here we have Meghan now trying to portray herself as some down-to-earth lifestyle guru, when before she was very serious and very political, as well as this activist who was champion for women. Now she's just a trad wife. So make that make sense. I guarantee that we're going to see a shift in Netflix content, in some of the programming that they're going to be putting out moving forward. I don't think it's going to be hijacked by the woke as it had been for the past 4 years. And that's all because of the funding that was going into it and where it was coming from to push this agenda. And that's how it's been working, folks. That's where the money is. And here with Meghan, I don't think Netflix is going to continue on with her after they drop the second half of the rest of this stupid series. I think they're done. There's no more money to give to this woman. There really isn't. And if they do, then something needs to be investigated, in my opinion. Everything about this woman we're calling Meghan Markle is a lie.
soul food has a lot of flavor and a lot of kick to it. I crave that, and I always gravitated to that level of heat. So
I was such a fraud.